My father hit me in front of my kids. And that moment set off a chain reaction I never saw coming. I thought the worst part of it was the slap. I was wrong. I'm Maren, 32 years old, female. Even after courtrooms, restraining orders, hospitals bills, long nights staring at my kids just to reassure myself they're safe, my body still reacts like he's right behind me. My father, Aleric, 61, has always been the kind of man people describe with tight smiles and those vague, terrified phrases like big personality or you know how he gets. Growing up, he wasn't a parent. He was a weather event. Loud, unpredictable. A man who could cook pancakes while humming old country songs one minute, then slam the same pan across the counter because someone left a light on upstairs. My sister Selene, 35, learned early how to survive him by becoming him. She had his sharp voice, his sharper moods, and this cruel, practiced ability to say something vicious with a soft laugh so no one could call her out. If Aleric was the storm, Selene was the lightning. Beautiful from far away, dangerous up close. And then there was me, the quiet one, the peacekeeper, the emotional shock absorber, the kid who learned how to tiptoe on carpet, and the one who was praised for being easy only because I knew how not to attract the thunder. I carried that into adulthood like a second spine. But then I married Rowan, 34, the first man who ever looked at me without expecting something in return. Someone who didn't confuse love with control. Someone who told me I was safe, and meant every word. We've been married 10 years now and have 2 kids, Isla, 8, who feels everything deeply, and Kale, 5, who still sleeps with his stuffed wolf and whispers secrets to it. For years I let my family in just enough for birthdays, a few holidays, the occasional weekend visit, because I wanted my kids to have grandparents, because I still clung to the delusion that maybe, just maybe, Aleric had softened. But the red flags never disappeared, they just got quieter. The way Aleric mocked Rowan anytime he had a different opinion, the way Selene joked that I was dramatic or too sensitive, the way my mother ignored every outburst with the skill of someone who'd been doing it for decades. And then there were the moments that made my stomach twist. Aleric grabbing Isla's shoulders too hard when correcting her posture, or snapping at Kale for crying like a weakling. Hey guys, real quick before we keep going, don't forget to sub and drop a like if you're enjoying the story. And tell me what you think in the comments. Thank you very much, enjoy watching. Every time something old and primal froze inside me, but I still swallowed it. I still told myself that's just his way. It's disgusting how much abuse you can normalize when you grew up drowning in it. And I genuinely thought, we could keep the volcano contained. I just never expected the explosion to happen right in front of my children. I used to think I could keep distance without fully severing ties. That delicate, impossible balance where you protect your kids but still pretend the family you grew up in isn't a collapsing building. But Aleric doesn't take distance well. He takes it as rebellion. And men like him don't tolerate rebellion from daughters like me. It started small. Little remarks, little escalations. Aleric calling me less and texting more, like he was monitoring how quickly I responded. Selene chiming in with her syrupy concerns, pretending she was playing mediator while really pouring gasoline on every spark. But the moment everything shifted, the moment things started rolling downhill so fast I couldn't stop it even if I tried, was the afternoon Aleric surprised us by showing up at our house uninvited. Rowan had the day off and was in the backyard fixing one of the posts on our old fence. Isla was drawing chalk unicorns on the patio. Kale was poking at a line of ants with the intense seriousness only 5-year-olds can muster. It was peaceful, completely normal, a rare quiet day. And then Aleric's truck rumbled up the driveway like a warning shot. He didn't knock. He never knocks. He just walked straight into the house like he owned it, calling out my name in that heavy, commanding voice that used to make my stomach drop when I was a kid. Maren, you home? Rowan froze mid-hammer. Isla's chalk broke in her hand. Even Kale went still. That's the thing about trauma. You don't outgrow it. It imprints on your children even when you think you've shielded them. I stepped inside to meet Aleric before he wandered deeper into our house. He looked irritated. Of course he did. Irritation was his default face. He glanced around like he was inspecting a property he planned to condemn. Why haven't you returned my calls? He demanded. I blinked. Dad, I called you back yesterday. Don't lie to me. His voice sharpened so fast it felt like a whip crack. You screened me for 3 days. You're avoiding me. I wasn't. I honestly wasn't. I'd missed one call because I was helping Isla with a school project. But Aleric never cared about context, just control. Rowan stepped into the doorway, resting the hammer on his shoulder. Not threatening, just present. A line of support at my back. That was Aleric's second trigger. He hated when other men stood up for me, hated that Rowan didn't fold under his tone, hated that someone else had become the protector he never was. "What are you doing here, Aleric?" Rowan asked evenly. Aleric's jaw flexed. "Not talking to you, boy." That word, boy. It wasn't an insult. It was a declaration that Rowan existed beneath him. Cale had crept closer to me, clutching my shirt. Isla was hovering behind Rowan, warily watching her grandfather like he was some kind of wild animal. "Dad, we're having a family day," I said softly. "You can't just—" And that's when it happened. That shift, that snap. I saw it in his eyes, the same flicker I remembered from childhood. The moment when annoyance turned into rage, and rage turned into violence. He lunged. Not a stumble, not an accident. A full-bodied shove meant to knock me back. Rowan got it between us in a half a heartbeat, catching Aleric's arm and pushing him away. Not hard, not aggressive, just enough to stop him. But Aleric stumbled, caught himself, and then he exploded. "You think you can put your hands on me?" he shouted, spit flying, face red, chest heaving. "You think you can stand between me and my daughter? In my bloodline? In front of my grandchildren?" Isla started crying. Cale hid behind my legs. Rowan stayed calm. God, he stayed so calm, but Aleric shoved him again, harder this time, and Rowan's restraint only enraged him more. Men like Aleric don't understand gentleness. They see it as weakness, and they punish weakness. "Dad, stop!" I yelled, grabbing his arm. He whipped around and struck me, a backhand, sharp, fast, instinctive. Not the first time in my life, but the first time in front of my children. I hit the counter, knocking over a stack of mail and Isla's school folder. I heard Isla scream, "Mom!" in this high, terrified voice that made something inside me tear. Cale burst into sobs, and Rowan, sweet, steady Rowan, lost the last of his calm. "Get out," he said, voice low and shaking. "Leave. Now." Aleric didn't leave. He roared. He threw a ceramic mug at the wall next to Rowan's head, shattering it, shards flying everywhere. Isla screamed again, covering her ears. Cale crawled under the table. I realized then, in a surreal, heartbreaking moment, my childhood was repeating itself. Right here in my kitchen, in front of my babies. Something inside me went cold. This was no longer about me. This was about them. This was about ending the cycle before it swallowed my children whole. I called the police. I'll never forget the look on Aleric's face when I did, and I'll never forgive myself for waiting that long. When the police arrived, the house was still vibrating with that electric, sick kind of tension, like the air after a lightning strike. Isla was clinging to Rowan's shirt, her small fingers white-knuckled. Cale was still under the kitchen table, crying so hard he hiccuped between every breath. And Aleric. He stood there in the middle of the broken ceramic and scattered mail, red-faced and panting like he'd just run a marathon. But when the officers stepped inside, it was like flipping a switch. His rage shut off instantly. He straightened his shirt, smoothed back his thinning hair, plastered on a wounded paternal expression I'd seen him use on neighbors, teachers, pastors, anyone he needed to manipulate. "I'm their grandfather," he said somberly, before anyone even asked. "My daughter is upset and confused. This whole thing is a misunderstanding." I swear to God he even put a hand over his heart. Rowan opened his mouth, but one of the officers, Officer Kincaid, middle-aged, stern, held up a hand. "Sir, we'll speak to everyone separately." Aleric smiled at that. The kind of smile that said, "I've done this before. I know how this works. I know how to win." They had talked to him first, of course. He painted a picture where he was the concerned parent, and Rowan was the aggressive one. Got in my face. Overreacted. Caused the fall. He called me emotional. Said he'd only been trying to redirect me when things escalated. He didn't mention the slap, of course. Or the shove. He left out the mug entirely. But my kids didn't forget. Isla sobbed so hard during her statement that an officer gently led her outside to sit on the porch. Cale just kept repeating, "Grandpa hit Mommy, Grandpa hit Mommy," over and over until his voice broke. I don't think I'll ever forget that sound. Officer Kincaid asked me if I wanted to file a report. I didn't hesitate this time. Not like all the other times in my 20s when I left my parents' house with shaking hands and a bruised arm, telling myself it wasn't worth the trouble. Not like the times I convinced myself I'd exaggerated or provoked him. I said yes. Out loud, clear, steady. Rowan squeezed my hand once. Proud but devastated. Because we both knew the minute I signed those papers, whatever fragile connection remained was going to shatter completely. They escorted Aleric outside. When he walked past me, something in his face changed. The mask slipped, his jaw clenched, eyes low and burning with quiet fury. "You're making a mistake, Maren," he murmured. "You'll regret this. You'll see what happens when you turn on your own blood." I didn't respond, but my knees shook. The officers ordered him off the property for the night and told me how to obtain an emergency protective order first thing in the morning. They also noted that because it happened in front of minors, the charges would carry extra weight if I pursued them. I nodded, numb. After they left, Rowan finally let himself sink into a chair, running both hands over his face like he was trying to stay grounded. Isla climbed into his lap, still trembling. I knelt next to the table and coaxed Cale out, holding him until he fell asleep against my chest, his tears soaking through my shirt. It was hours before the house felt still again, but I didn't sleep, because at 12:17 a.m., a text lit up my phone, from Selene. "Wow. Really, Maren? You called the police on Dad. You've officially lost it. He said you attacked him. I should have known you'd blow things out of proportion like always." Then another. "You're going to destroy this family. Congratulations." And then, the one that made my blood run cold. "If you push this, we will not stand by you, and Dad won't either. Think before you do something you can't undo." Undo. As if my father striking me in front of my screaming children could be reversed like a wrong move in a board game. I put the phone down and stared at the wall until sunrise, holding Cale's sleeping body against me like a shield, because I knew Selene wasn't bluffing, and I knew Aleric wasn't done. Not even close. The morning after the police came felt unreal, like the quiet after a hurricane, when you're standing in the wreckage and pretending the air isn't still vibrating with leftover chaos. Rowan made pancakes for the kids, even though he barely slept. His hands were shaking the whole time, but he kept smiling at Aisling and Cale like nothing was wrong. He was trying to rebuild normalcy, one breakfast at a time. I spent that morning at the courthouse filing for an emergency protective order against Aleric. My hands were trembling as I filled out the paperwork, question after question, forcing me to put into words things I'd spent my whole life pretending weren't real. Yes, he hit me. Yes, in front of my children. Yes, I believe he may come back. Yes, I'm afraid. By the time I handed it in, my signature barely looked like my own name. When I returned home, Rowan was on the porch with Isla. She was curled against him, quiet, drawing circles with her finger on his sleeve, her new way of soothing herself. "Mom," she whispered when she saw me, "is Grandpa going to come back and yell again?" I felt something inside me snap. Not in anger, not in fear, but in this molten, protective certainty I'd never felt before. "No," I said. "I won't ever let that happen again." But of course, Aleric didn't make it that simple. By early afternoon, my phone started lighting up like a malfunctioning slot machine. First came Selene again. "You actually filed? Jesus, Maren, you're insane." Then, "Dad is devastated. He said you hit him. The police didn't believe him because of Rowan." Then, "If you think you can paint him as some monster, you're delusional." Rowan wanted me to block her, but I needed to keep the messages, for evidence, because every word Selene wrote dug Aleric's hole deeper, even as she tried to protect him. Around 4 p.m., she escalated. "Maren, I'm warning you. If you push this, you'll lose the whole family. Don't expect any support when this blows up." Support? From them? They never supported me a day in my life. But the worst message came 10 minutes later. "And FYI, Dad's talking to a lawyer. He's not letting you ruin his name." My blood ran cold. A lawyer? For what? For the consequences of his own violence? Before I could respond, Rowan's phone rang. His face changed instantly. "It's your mom." I braced myself. My mother, who had spent her entire marriage smoothing Aleric's outbursts under a rug so heavy it could bury a body. Rowan put the call on speaker. Her voice came through tight and frantic. "Maren, what did you do? Selene said you called the police? What were you thinking? Your father is heartbroken." Heartbroken. A man who'd hit me so hard my jaw ached. A man who'd thrown a mug at Rowan's head. Heartbroken. "Mom," I said quietly, "he hit me. He tried to get to me and Rowan had to step in. The kids saw everything." She didn't even pause, didn't even react. Oh, for heaven's sake, Maren, you know how dramatic you can be. You always blow things out of proportion. If you would just apologize, this could all calm down. Rowan pressed his hands to his forehead like he physically couldn't listen. I'm not apologizing to him, I said. I filed for a protective order. Silence. Then my mother's voice went shrill, panicked in a way I'd only ever heard when the situation threatened Aleric, not me. You what? Do you have any idea what you've done? Do you know what this will do to him, to our family? What will the neighbors think? What will Selene think? I hung up. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't explain myself. I simply pressed end call, then let my head fall into my hands as my mother's number appeared twice more, then 3 more times, then stopped. For the first time in my life, I chose to protect myself and my children instead of my father's ego. I thought that would be the end of it. But Aleric wasn't done, because that evening as the sun was setting, a thick envelope was slid under our front door. Rowan picked it up. It wasn't a letter. It was a notice. Aleric's lawyer was contesting the protective order. He was claiming I had attacked him. He was claiming Rowan was the aggressor. He was claiming he was the victim. My legs went weak. Rowan caught me before I hit the floor. This wasn't over. This was the beginning of the war. I always thought the scariest part of standing up to my father would be the moment I said no. The moment I finally broke the pattern and chose myself instead of letting him swallow me whole. But I was wrong. The scariest part was what happened next. The lawyer who sent the letter, some slick-looking guy named Royston Hale, was known in our county for defending men exactly like Aleric. Controlling, charming on the surface, explosive underneath, men who wore respectability like armor. The notice under our door claimed that I attacked him, that Rowan escalated the situation, that the police misunderstood, that the injured grandfather wanted all charges dismissed. It made me nauseous. Rowan skimmed through it, shaking his head. This is bullshit. They're trying to get ahead of the actual hearing, scare you. This feels like him, I whispered. This feels like when I was little and he'd break something, then tell me I did it. Rowan put his hands on my shoulders. We fight this. We're not backing down. I nodded, even though my stomach was twisting so hard I thought I might throw up. When I showed up at the courthouse for the emergency protective order, hearing 2 days later Selene was already there. She was leaning against a wall, arms crossed, wearing this smug, pitying expression, like she was watching a toddler have a tantrum. Maren, she said in a faux soft voice, you don't have to do this. Just say it was a misunderstanding. Dad's willing to forgive you. Forgive me? I walked right past her. Inside the courtroom, Aleric sat at the far end of the bench in a crisp button-down, his bruised ego wrapped in expensive cologne. His expression was blank. No rage, no remorse, nothing. Like he'd erased the entire incident from his memory. When our eyes met, something cold slid down my spine. He smiled. A slow, confident, I still own you smile. I almost turned around and walked out, but Rowan squeezed my hand and nodded at me to breathe. The hearing was short, straightforward. The police report supported my version of events. Isla's and Kale's statements, through a child advocate, were heartbreaking but undeniable. The judge granted a temporary 30-day protective order on the spot. Aleric's jaw tightened. Selene's eyes flashed with fury. They weren't shocked. They were insulted. The twist came 3 days later. It was quiet. Too quiet. No text from Selene. No calls from my mother. No lawyer letters. No truck idling outside our street. Just silence. I should have sensed it. I should have known silence meant plotting. Because on the 4th day, I got a call from CPS. Ms. Maren, we received a report of potential instability in your home. My blood ran cold. I sat down so fast the chair nearly tipped. What instability? The woman cleared her throat, reading from a file. We received a statement claiming that you and your husband engage in physical altercations in front of your children, and that the children expressed fear of returning home. I could barely breathe. That's not true, I choked out. He attacked me. My husband has never... I understand, ma'am. We just need to follow up. I knew instantly who did it. Not Aleric. He preferred direct confrontation. This was Selene's work. This was her twisting the knife, trying to make me drop the case by threatening the only thing more precious than my own life. Rowan called our attorney immediately. CPS came to the house, saw the kids were safe, saw the protective order, saw Rowan's gentle nature, saw the police report. They closed the visit within an hour. But I wasn't relieved. I was furious. because for the first time in my life I saw my sister clearly. Selene wasn't just defending our father, she was trying to destroy me. That night, lying awake in the dark, feeling Isla's small hand wrapped around mine as she slept, I made a choice. I wasn't just going to defend myself anymore. I was going to fight back. Not with yelling, not with fists, not with chaos like them. I was going to use the one thing they never expected from me. The truth. And I was going to use it publicly. Update 1. Wow, no. I didn't expect so many people to respond the way you all did to my first posts. I'm honestly overwhelmed. A few of you told me I should have cut them off years ago. Trust me, I know. Trauma messes with your compass. Some of you were furious on behalf of Isla and Kale. Sam, my heart breaks for what they saw. And to the person who said, girl, record everything and weaponize the receipts? Yeah, that hit me right in the spine. Because that's exactly what I started doing after the CPS stunt. Also, to the guy who wrote, next time Aleric shows up, let Rowan commit a little tax fraud accidentally on purpose. You almost had me spitting out my coffee. But seriously, thank you. All of you. Even the tough loved ones. Because this next part, this is where things start to flip. This is where my revenge begins. Revenge didn't come to me all at once. It didn't hit like a lightning bolt or a dramatic movie epiphany. It built quietly, slowly, like pressure behind a dam. 1,000 small insults, manipulations, and cruelties adding weight until something inside me finally snapped. After the CPS stunt, I stopped waiting for the next attack. I stopped hoping they'd calm down. I stopped pretending the old family roles still applied. I wasn't the peacekeeper anymore. I was a mother in war mode. And mothers in war mode do not miss. I started by documenting everything. Every message from Selene, every voicemail from my mother, every lawyer letter from Aleric's side, every detail of the CPS visit. I kept a binder, color-coded, tabbed, and thick enough to double as a blunt force weapon. But information wasn't the real revenge. Truth was, because my entire life Aleric's power came from secrecy. His version of events always drowned out mine because he controlled the story. I was quiet. I was conditioned to be quiet. Not anymore. The turning point came when Rowan and I met with our attorney, Hartwell, a calm, sharp woman who looked like she'd eaten men like Aleric for breakfast. We're filing a civil case, she said. Emotional distress, physical harm, property damage, and endangerment of minors. I stared at her. I thought this was just criminal court. Protective orders. Hartwell shook her head. You don't understand. Your father's escalating. You need leverage. Leverage. The word made something in me ignite. And, she added, tapping her pen, it's time the rest of your extended family knew what really happened. My stomach twisted. They won't believe me. Hartwell's eyebrow lifted. They don't need to. Evidence speaks louder than family narratives. That was the moment the revenge plan clicked into place. Not sabotage, not destruction, exposure. The next step happened completely naturally, because chaos always creates witnesses. A week later, I took Isla to a dentist appointment. While we sat in the waiting room, I heard a familiar voice. Not Selene, not my mother, my Aunt Therese, the one relative who always loved us but moved 3 states away to escape the family's toxicity. Maren, she gasped when she saw me. Oh my God, are you okay? Your father said you had some breakdown? Of course he did. And that's when the dam burst. Everything poured out, the slap, the mug thrown at Rowan, the kid's terror, the CPS stunt, the protective order, the lawyer. Therese listened with a horrified stillness. Then she said the line that changed the entire trajectory of this nightmare. You know he's done this before, right? My breath hitched. What? Your father, when he was younger, before you kids. He hurt someone and a coworker, broke his nose. The company paid him off because they didn't want legal trouble. I felt the world tilt. And your sister... Therese hesitated. She's covering for him because he pays her. He's been sending her money for years. Money. Of course. Selene wasn't defending him out of loyalty. She was defending her income. Why didn't anyone tell me? I whispered. Therese's eyes softened. Because, sweetheart, your mother made us swear not to undermine the family. I felt something cold, solid, and razor-sharp form inside me. This wasn't just abuse. This was generational rot, and it was time to burn it out. The real revenge began the next day. I gathered every document, every message, every official record. I compiled it into a single PDF. over 200 pages long, and sent it to every extended relative, my parents' church pastor, Aleric's employer, Selene's husband, the school board, my mother volunteered it, and most importantly, my father's lawyer, Royston Hale. The subject line was simple. Here is the truth. I didn't write a single extra word. Rowan just stared at me as I clicked send. Maren, you realize this is nuclear. I know. I felt calm. Too calm. Like someone standing in the eye of a hurricane. But for once, the storm wasn't mine. Within 24 hours, the fallout started. First, Selene's husband replied, I had no idea. She told me you attacked your father. I'm so sorry. Then my cousin sent, Holy shit. We always wondered why you were so distant. Now we know. Then the church pastor emailed asking for a meeting regarding deeply concerning revelations. Then Aleric's employer requested immediate clarification regarding the police report. But the message that hit the hardest? From my mother. How could you humiliate us like this? Everyone is calling me. You've destroyed our reputation. I hope you're proud. I didn't reply. Because reputation wasn't my responsibility. Protection was. And I had finally learned the difference. Update 2. Alright, y'all. I did not expect the firestorm this caused. I'm still reading your comments. Some of you told me to release the Kraken and listen. I basically did. A few of you said, your father is going to lose his mind when he realizes he can't control the narrative. Yeah, I'm aware. I'm braced. Trust me. Someone else wrote, OP, your sister is giving flying monkey energy. I laughed so hard I scared Kale. But here's the wild part. People are switching sides. People who never believed me, ever, are suddenly rethinking everything. My aunt said it best. Sunlight is the best disinfectant. Well, I just opened all the blinds. The thing about exposing someone like Aleric is that they don't crumble quietly. They don't self-reflect. They don't apologize. They lash out, hard, loud, wild. By the time the formal court date arrived for both the protective order extension and the civil case filings, the damage I'd unleashed was already spreading through the family tree like wildfire. My mother had called me 12 times in 3 days. Selene had called me once, then switched to rage texting when I didn't pick up. Aleric? Nothing. Absolute radio silence. That was somehow worse. Silent Aleric meant calculating Aleric. The morning of the hearing I was shaking so badly Rowan had to help me zip my dress. Isla left a little drawing on our bed. 3 stick figures holding hands, little hearts around us. She wrote Mommy Brave in big messy letters. I nearly sobbed into Rowan's shoulder. Whatever happens in there, he whispered, we're walking out together. All 4 of us. We dropped the kids with our neighbor, Isla clutching Kale's hand like she wasn't letting go if the earth split open, and drove to the courthouse. Inside the courtroom, everything felt cold, formal, too still, and there he was, Aleric, sitting at the defendant's table in a charcoal suit, his hands folded neatly, his expression calm, controlled, perfectly rehearsed. Selene sat behind him, jaw tight, arms folded, glaring at me like she wished she could spit fire. My mother wasn't there. That told me everything. Hale, the slimy lawyer Aleric hired, stood tall, radiating smug confidence. But the minute our attorney, Hartwell, stacked our evidence binder on the table with a satisfying thud, his eyebrow twitched. We weren't there to beg. We weren't there to explain. We were there to prove. And Hartwell? She didn't come to play. The judge called the room to order. We began. It started with a police report. Straightforward, factual, undeniable. Then the officer's body cam footage, grainy but clear enough to see Aleric's posture, his volume, his aggression. Then the children's advocate summary, Isla's voice cracking, Kale crying. The courtroom shifted uncomfortably. Then the CPS notes. The false report traced back to an anonymous number. Selene's face went pale. She crossed her arms tighter. She wouldn't look at me. Then Hartwell presented the messages Selene had sent. You're destroying this family. Dad said you attacked him. We won't support you. CPS needs to investigate you. The judge's expression hardened. Finally, Hartwell dropped the final blow. The 200-page PDF, printed and tabbed, of every documented instance of harassment, manipulation, escalation, and Aleric's past violent history as confirmed by Aunt Teresa's account and company records. Hale tried to object. The judge overruled him, because everything was verified. Everything. You could feel the room shift, slowly, then dramatically, like everyone watching had just realized they'd been misjudging the situation entirely. Aleric's face didn't move, but his jaw twitched. The mask cracked right there. When it was Aleric's turn to speak, he walked to the stand with a calmness that made me nauseous. His voice was soft, measured, practiced. I love my daughter. She has always been emotional, sensitive. Rowan has poisoned her against us. This is all a misunderstanding blown out of proportion. He painted me as unstable, claimed I had a temper, claimed Rowan manipulated me, claimed he never struck me, only blocked her from falling. My heart pounded so loudly I could barely hear the rest, but Hartwell heard every word. Mr. Aleric, she said, rising slowly, if you don't mind, could you explain this? She held up a still frame from the body cam footage. Aleric's arm raised, my head turning away, Rowan stepping between us. Aleric stuttered. His confidence cracked. For the first time in my life, I saw him afraid, not of me, of losing control. The judge took a long moment before speaking. The courtroom was silent, the kind of silence where you could hear someone breathe 2 rows back. Given the evidence, the judge said, the temporary protective order is not only justified, it will be upgraded to a full 1-year order, covering Maren, her husband, and both children. Selene gasped. Aleric went red. So red I thought he might actually explode. But the judge kept going. In addition, given the documented malicious false report to CPS, harassment, and witness manipulation, civil proceedings will continue. Mediation is denied. We are moving toward trial. Trial. Real consequences. Finally. The judge finished with, Mr. Aleric, if you contact, approach, or attempt any indirect communication with this family, you will be arrested. It was done. When the gavel hit, Aleric shot to his feet. His voice thundered across the courtroom. You think this is over? You think you won? Maren, you ungrateful... Security stepped in fast. Selene tugged at his arm, panic in her eyes. Hale tried to hush him, but Aleric kept shouting, face purple, veins bulging. I made you! You're nothing without me! You'll come crawling back! Rowan stepped slightly in front of me, blocking his line of sight. I didn't flinch. Not this time. Because this wasn't the voice of a powerful man. It was the roar of someone who had finally lost. When we walked out of that courtroom, the air felt different, lighter, thinner, like oxygen after years underwater. I looked at Rowan. We did it, I whispered. He pulled me close. No, you did. But it wasn't pride that hit me. It was grief. For the father I never had. For the childhood I lost. For the family I finally let myself walk away from. And behind that grief, something new. Freedom, real freedom. But things weren't done unraveling. Because the biggest fallout, the one that blew the entire family open, came the very next day. And it didn't come from Aleric. It came from Selene. I always thought the final blow would come from Aleric. He was the violent one, the unpredictable one, the storm that wrecked everything in its path. But storms burn out eventually. It's the quiet ones, the lightning that strike when you least expect it. The morning after the court hearing, I woke up to 8 missed calls from an unknown number and 3 texts from Rowan's cousin. Maren, check Facebook. It's Selene. Brace yourself. My stomach dropped. I opened the app, hands trembling, breath tight, and saw her post immediately, pinned to the top of her page. Hundreds of comments already pouring in. A long, dramatic block of text with a photo of her and Aleric smiling at some barbecue from 2 summers ago. The caption, my sister has always been unstable. I've tried to protect her, but yesterday she destroyed our family in court. Everything she claims about our father is exaggerated or fabricated. She's manipulated by her husband. Pray for us during this heartbreaking time. I felt the heat rise in my chest. Not rage, not shock, betrayal. A betrayal that had been decades in the making. She tagged mutual relatives. She let people assume I was the abuser. She framed herself as the righteous daughter carrying the burden of truth. And then, she named my children. Not directly, but enough. Her kids are being raised in a hostile, chaotic environment. She violated boundaries, safety, privacy, my kids. Rowan saw the post over my shoulder. His expression went blank in a way that worried me more than anger ever could. "She posted their names," he said quietly. "Yes." "That's it," he whispered. "I'm done letting your family touch our lives." I didn't answer because something inside me was already moving, shifting, snapping into place like bones realigning after being broken too long. I messaged our attorney, sent screenshots, sent links, sent every comment Selene replied to with more lies. Hartwell wrote back in minutes. "This is defamation, harassment, and it violates the protective order through indirect contact. We're adding her to the civil suit." It was the first time Selene realized that protecting Aleric meant sacrificing herself, and it unraveled fast. By noon, the post had backfired spectacularly. Relatives who received my PDF, the truth, commented publicly under her post. "Selene, we saw the reports. There is a body cam showing your father attacking her. Why are you lying?" "You and your mother covered for him for years," Selene replied, panicking. "Stop attacking me. You don't understand. Dad was stressed." Maren pushed him emotionally. But the tide had turned. Her husband commented, "Selene, enough. I saw the evidence. You need help." It was brutal. She took the post down within an hour. Then she called me 6 times. I didn't answer. She sent a voice message, her voice cracking, desperate, unfamiliar. "Maren, please. I didn't mean... I was trying to protect all of us. You weren't supposed to take it this far. Just, you can fix this. Tell the judge it was a misunderstanding, okay? Please, Dad is threatening to cut me off. I need your help." The irony nearly made me laugh. She needed my help, after she tried to take my children away, after she lied in court, after she sided with a man who hit me in front of them. Rowan listened to the voicemail and whispered, "Do not respond. Let your attorney handle it." And I did. For once in my life, I didn't apologize. I didn't soothe. I didn't try to mend what my family broke. I protected my children. I protected myself. And that was enough. The civil trial never happened the way we expected. 2 weeks later, Aleric settled. A large settlement, more than I imagined he'd ever agreed to. Hartwell said it was because his employer put him on leave after receiving the police report and body cam footage I sent. His reputation was collapsing. His lawyer was losing patience. His money was draining. He settled to avoid a public trial. He also signed the full 1-year protective order without contest. Within a month, he moved out of state. Selene faded too. Her marriage dissolved quietly. Her social media went dark. We never heard from her again. My mother sent one more text. "I hope someday you regret what you did to this family." I blocked her. The final scene of my old life happened 3 months later. Rowan and I took Isla and Kale to a quiet park. The one with the big willow tree where Isla likes to make leaf crowns and Kale likes to race squirrels. They were laughing, safe, light again. For the first time in years, the air didn't feel heavy. Rowan wrapped his arm around me and pressed his forehead to mine. "You ended it," he said softly. "You broke the cycle." I looked at our kids, running, giggling, unburdened, and felt something warm bloom inside my chest. "I didn't break it," I said. "I burned it down." And I meant it, because my children will never know the version of me who flinched at footsteps, who swallowed screams, who apologized for bruises. They'll know the mother who chose them, who fought for them, who stood up to the storm and walked out on the other side, free, truly free. And as Isla ran toward me, hair wild in the wind, shouting, "Mommy, look!" while Kale proudly held up a tiny acorn, I realized something simple and stunning. I didn't lose a family, I built one, and it is stronger than anything I left behind.